You know what's funny? Society tells you that if you don't have friends, if you spend most of your time alone, something must be wrong with you. They look at you like you're broken, like you're damaged goods, like you missed the memo on how to be a normal, functioning human being. But here's the thing nobody wants to admit. What if the loner isn't broken at all? What if, and stay with me here, what if they're just done with the bullshit? Because let me tell you something about these loners. The ones people whisper about. The ones who walk alone, eat alone, work alone, and seem perfectly fine with it. They're not lonely. They're selective. And that triggers the hell out of people. Let's rewind for a second. You want to know why someone becomes a loner? You want to know why they cut people off faster than a bad Wi-Fi connection? It's because they learned early. Picture this. You're in middle school. You've got this friend, right? You've been close for years. You tell them everything. Your secrets, your fears, your embarrassing crush on that kid in math class. Then one day you walk into the cafeteria and everyone's staring at you, laughing, because your best friend told everyone your business for a few cheap laughs and a seat at the popular table. Or maybe it's your family. You're the one everyone calls when they need something. Money? Call you. Emotional support? Call you. Someone to watch the kids? Call you. But when you're breaking down, when you need someone to just listen, suddenly everyone's busy. Everyone's got somewhere to be. Or remember that relationship. The one where you gave everything. Where you showed up, supported their dreams, held them through their worst days. And they thanked you by cheating on you with someone who gave them half the effort. They learned when they were kids, or maybe teenagers or young adults, that people will take advantage of you, use you when it's convenient, dismiss your feelings like they're background noise, overlook you when someone shinier walks into the room, mistreat you and then act like you're the problem for caring. And here's the kicker. They learned this lesson over and over again. From friends who only called when they needed something. From family members who took their loyalty for granted. From romantic partners who saw them as an emotional punching bag. So what do you think happens when someone gets burned that many times? They stop touching the stove. They stop giving people the benefit of the doubt. They stop believing in second chances. They stop entertaining manipulation, lies, disrespect, and emotional games. They become allergic to toxicity. And society. Society looks at them and says, "Why are you so cold?" Cold? No, sweetheart, they're not cold. They're awake. Here's where it gets interesting. Most people will tolerate disrespect because they're afraid of being alone. They'll let someone disrespect them on Monday, gaslight them on Tuesday, and by Friday they're still answering their texts. Why? Because they think having someone is better than having no one. But the loner, the one who's been through it, they know better. They know that being alone is a hell of a lot better than being surrounded by people who drain you, use you, or treat you like you're disposable. So when they catch even a whiff of manipulation, when they sense lie or emotional games, they don't sit down for a long conversation about it. They don't argue. They don't try to fix it. They don't give speeches. They just leave. No drama, no explanation, no looking back. And people call them harsh for it. People call them difficult or impossible to deal with. But you know what those loners call it? Self-respect. Because here's the truth. Nobody wants to say out loud. You don't end up with no friends because you can't make them. You end up with no friends because you refuse to tolerate low-quality people. And let's be honest, most people out here are low quality. Yeah, I said it. Now here's where people really start getting uncomfortable. Because these loners, the ones who've been through the fire and came out the other side, they didn't just develop thick skin. They developed vision. There's this guy, let's call him Marcus. Marcus works in an office. New guy starts, super friendly, right? Always complimenting people, always offering to help, always cracking jokes. Everyone loves this guy. Everyone except Marcus. Marcus watches. He notices how new guy compliments the boss, but talks trash about him in the break room. How he helps people but always makes sure someone important sees him doing it. How he's buddy-buddy with whoever can help him climb the ladder. 3 months later, new guy throws a co-worker under the bus to save his own ass on a project. And everyone's shocked. Everyone except Marcus. Because Marcus saw it coming from day one. Early pain does something to you. It sharpens your intuition. It turns your emotional radar into a finely tuned instrument that picks up frequencies other people can't even hear. These loners can sense hidden motives, the ones wrapped in fake smiles, insecurity, jealousy, even when it's disguised as concern manipulation. The subtle kind that most people fall for: fake friendliness, the type that disappears the moment you stop being useful. You ever meet someone and within 5 minutes you just know they're full of it? That's not a superpower. That's pattern recognition. And loners? They've seen most pattern in the book. You can't fool them. You can't charm them. You can't play the victim and expect sympathy. You can't guilt trip them into staying. They've studied the game, and they're no longer playing. Let's talk about boundaries for a second. Most people don't have them, or if they do, they're made of tissue paper. One guilt trip, one please, one puppy dog look, and boom, boundary obliterated. But loners? The ones who spent years tolerating too much, accepting too little, and swallowing their own needs to keep the peace. Their boundaries are made of reinforced steel. Take this woman. Let's call her Jennifer. Jennifer's sister used to call her at 2 a.m. every week. Sometimes twice a week, not for emergencies, for drama. I had a fight with my boyfriend. I'm so stressed about work. I can't sleep and I'm anxious. And Jennifer, because she loved her sister, because she was a good person, would answer every single time. She'd talk her sister down for an hour, sometimes 2, then drag herself to work the next morning on 3 hours of sleep. This went on for 2 years, until one night Jennifer just didn't answer. Her sister called again, texted, "Why aren't you answering? I really need you right now. I can't believe you're ignoring me." And you know what Jennifer did? She texted back, "I'm sleeping. We can talk tomorrow at a reasonable hour." Her sister lost it, called her selfish, cold, a bad sister. But Jennifer held firm, because she learned the hard way that people will take as much as you give, that people will push until you push back. That nice gets you used, not appreciated. So they stopped being nice. They started being clear. And let me tell you, people hate clarity. They hate it when you say no without explaining yourself. They hate it when you don't answer their text within 2 minutes. They hate it when you refuse to justify your choices to them. But here's the reality. They're just done being hurt. They've raised their standards. They've built walls, not to keep everyone out, but to filter out everyone who doesn't deserve to be in. And only rare, emotionally healthy, self-aware people make it through those filters. The rest, they get left outside wondering why they can't get close. Well, Karen, maybe it's because you're exhausting. Here's something most people don't understand. When you grow up without support, when you grow up being the one everyone leans on but no one's there when you need help, you learn something powerful. You learn to rely on yourself. There's this kid, let's call him David. David's parents got divorced when he was 12. Messy divorce. Both parents so wrapped up in their own pain that they didn't notice David falling apart. His grades dropped. He stopped hanging out with friends. He'd come home to an empty house because Mom was working 2 jobs and Dad had moved across the state. Nobody asked if he was okay. Nobody noticed he was drowning. So David learned to swim on his own. He figured out how to cook for himself, how to do his own laundry, how to forge permission slips when neither parent was available to sign them, how to sit alone in his room at night and work through his feelings because there was no one to talk to. By the time David turned 18, he didn't need anyone. Not because he didn't want connection, but because he'd learned that the only person he could truly count on was himself. You learn how to comfort yourself when you're hurting, how to solve your own problems without waiting for rescue, how to survive when no one's coming to save you, how to grow even when you're alone. And that self-reliance, that becomes your foundation. It makes you calm in chaos, confident in uncertainty, stable when everything around you is falling apart. But here's the thing. People admire that strength from a distance. They praise it. They say things like, "Wow, you're so strong, you're so independent." But up close it intimidates them. Because when someone doesn't need you, they can't control you. When someone is whole on their own, you can't use their loneliness against them. You can't guilt them into staying. You can't dangle companionship like a carrot. They're not starving for connection, so they can't be manipulated with scraps. And for people who are used to getting their way through emotional leverage, that's terrifying. They don't fear losing you. Let me tell you the real reason people beware of loners. It's not because they're dangerous. It's not because they're unstable. It's not because they're secretly plotting something. It's because they don't fear losing people. Think about that for a second. Meet Alex. Alex was in a relationship for 5 years. 5 years of trying to make it work. 5 years of compromising, sacrificing, bending over backwards to keep the peace. And their partner knew it. They knew Alex was terrified of being alone. So they used it. Stayed out late without calling? If you don't like it, leave. Flirted with other people. You're being insecure. Forgot important dates? If it's such a big deal, maybe we shouldn't be together. They'd throw out the threat of breaking up over the smallest things. Because they knew Alex would back down. Every single time. Until one day after another, if you don't like it, leave speech. Alex said, okay. Just like that, no tears, no begging, no negotiation. Okay. And their partner's face? Priceless. Because they'd been playing that card for years, and Alex had always folded. But this time, Alex called the bluff. Packed their stuff, found an apartment, and left. And you know what happened? Their ex completely fell apart. Called, texted, showed up at Alex's work. I didn't mean it. I was just upset. Please come back. But Alex had already crossed that bridge and burned it behind them. They'd walked through that fire. They'd sat in that silence. They've survived that emptiness. And you know what they found on the other side? Peace. So when you threaten to leave, they shrug. When you play games, they walk away. When you try to manipulate them with the silent treatment, they enjoy the quiet. You can't control someone who is not afraid of being alone, doesn't chase anyone, values respect more than company. You have no leverage, no power, no hold over them. And that right there is what makes them powerful. Because the moment you stop fearing loss, you become untouchable. Here's the thing people get wrong about loners. They think isolation is weakness. They think being alone means you can't connect with people. But that's not it at all. Loners don't isolate out of weakness. They isolate out of strength. They're not avoiding people because they're scared. Or maybe they are scared. Scared of letting wrong people in because they're selective. They prefer meaningful connections over meaningless small talk. Real conversations over surface-level chit-chat. Emotionally mature people over drama queens. Authentic relationships over performative friendships. And guess what? Most people can't offer that. Most people want to talk at you, not with you. Most people want to vent but never listen. Most people want your energy, your time, your attention. But the moment you need something, crickets. So loners let them go, and they don't feel bad about it. They watch superficial people fall away like leaves in autumn, natural, necessary, inevitable, because they know that quality beats quantity. That one real friend is worth more than 100 fake ones. That being alone is better than being surrounded by people who don't really see you. They chose solitude over settling, and honestly, that's the most powerful choice you can make. Let's talk about peace for a minute. You know what it's like to finally find peace after years of chaos? After years of drama, tension, emotional manipulation, and constant walking on eggshells? It's like breathing for the first time. Meet James. James spent his 20s in toxic friendship circles. Every weekend was drama. Someone was always fighting with someone else. Someone was always crying about something. Someone always needed him to pick sides, play mediator, fix everyone's problems. His phone was constantly blowing up. Group chats full of arguments. People calling at all hours to vent about other people in the group. He couldn't even enjoy a quiet dinner without someone texting emergency, which usually meant they were drunk and needed a ride, or got into another fight with their boyfriend. James had anxiety, couldn't sleep, was always on edge waiting for the next crisis. Then one day he just stopped, muted the group chats, stopped answering the crisis calls, started staying home on Friday nights, and for the first time in years, he slept through the night. He woke up without that knot in his stomach. He could enjoy his coffee without checking his phone every 5 seconds. He could watch a movie without someone calling to dump their problems on him. And once you've tasted that peace, once you've felt what it's like to wake up without anxiety, to go to bed without replaying every conversation, to live without constantly bracing for the next blow, You protect it. You protect it like your life depends on it. So if you bring drama, gossip, inconsistency, disrespect, chaos, manipulation, you're gone. No guilt, no struggle, no long explanations, no second chance. Just gone. And people get upset about that. They say, you didn't even give me a chance to explain. But here's the thing. They already showed you who they are. And loners usually believe people the first time. They're not interested in hearing your excuses, your justifications, your "I was going through something" speech. Because everyone's going through something. That's not an excuse to disrespect. Loners protect their peace the way a mother protects her child. Fiercely, unapologetically, without hesitation. And if that makes them seem harsh to you, that's your problem, not theirs. So let's cut through the bullshit and get to the real truth. The loners people tell you to beware of, they're not dangerous. They're evolved. They didn't wake up one day and decide to be difficult. They didn't choose to be picky just for the hell of it. They grew from pain. They transformed their trauma into clarity about what they will and won't tolerate. Self-confidence that doesn't entirely depend on external validation. Peace that they refuse to compromise. Emotional intelligence that cuts through nonsense. Strong inner boundaries that keep them safe. They became people who cannot be manipulated, controlled, used, or fooled. And you know what? They're free. That's why people beware. Not because loners are cruel, but because they can't be played. They can't be fooled by fake apologies and empty promises. They see the game. They know the players, and they've decided they're done playing. That kind of freedom is powerful. And power, real power, the kind that comes from within, makes people uncomfortable. Especially people who are used to getting their way through manipulation. So what happens when someone who's been skating by on charm, manipulation, or just coasting through surface-level relationships meets a loner? They panic, because suddenly none of their tricks work. Their sob stories don't get sympathy. Their guilt trips bounce off like rubber. Their attempts to play the victim fall flat. They look at them with calm, clear eyes and say, "I'm good," and they mean it. They don't need your company if it comes with conditions. And that's when you realize you have no power here. You can't manipulate someone who's comfortable walking away. You can't control someone who doesn't fear being alone. You can't use someone who's already learned that lesson. So you label them instead, because it's easier to make them the problem than to admit you're just not meeting their standards. So when people say beware of loners who have no friends, what they're really saying is beware of people you can't manipulate. Beware of people who see through your bullshit. Beware of people who value themselves too much to tolerate your nonsense. That's the warning. Look, here's the bottom line. If you're a loner reading this, if you're someone who's walked away from toxic people, who's chosen peace over popularity, who's built boundaries and refused to lower them, you already know all of this. You've lived it, and you don't need anyone's permission to protect yourself. You don't need anyone's approval to choose quality over quantity. You don't need to explain yourself to people who wouldn't understand anyway. You're just done accepting less than you deserve. And if the world wants to beware of that, let them. You'll be over here, peaceful, protected, and perfectly fine on your own. Because at the end of the day, the only person you need to be okay with is yourself. And you already are. Drop a comment below. Are you a loner? Have you walked away from toxic people and never looked back? Let's talk about it. Because you're not alone in being alone. And that's the beautiful irony of it all.